Okay, right. This is a quick review of the movie Tetris. Um, wow, I've just finished watching it and the movie was fantastic. Um, I don't know. For most people, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and obviously, I remember playing Tetris on the original Game Boy, and obviously on the green, was it the black and white screen? And the game was actually for such a simple game, obviously compared to the graphics of games of this day and age. The game was so addictive. So then when I heard about a couple of years ago that they were planning on making a Tetris movie, the first thing that came into my mind was that I thought they were going to literally were going to make a game based on the actual video game itself, because we've seen like a lot of people trying to do that with video games. But I didn't realize that what they were actually doing was that they were making a game on Tetris in the sense of how the game came to be, in the sense of how the game was created, and the complicated issue of selling the rights to the Tetris franchise. Obviously, we know it from being on the Game Boy, but then there was a time when it was on Atari, and the long, complicated history. And obviously, it was invented by a Russian computer programmer. And as I said before, right, watching this, I really learned a lot from watching the movie. I know that there were a couple of things that were dramatized from the actual real life events, but wow, I was totally blown away by the actual movie, and I was just totally engaged and intrigued into what was going to happen next. Obviously, I knew that what the outcome was going to be, because obviously we know that that Tetris ended up being packaged with the Game Boy, with the original Game Boy, and then obviously ended up selling it in 1989, and ended up was a big hit. But I never knew. I knew about some basic stuff, stories about the actual issues with the rights of it, and it was kind of really complicated in terms of what they had to go about getting the actual rights to the actual video game, and I had no idea that it was this complex. As you can see here, the movie came out in 2023, so obviously it's this year. It's just shy under 2 hours, so again, some people might find it a bit long, obviously, especially with it based on the subject of Tetris. But I'm telling you that once you sit there and you kind of get engaged into the actual story, in terms of how the narrative what into what happens, you're going to be fully going to be fully engaged, like how I was in watching the movie. And so the basic 2 hour runtime doesn't feel like a 2 hour runtime at all. And as I said, as it says here, it says based on the true story of American video game salesman Hank Rogers, played by actor Taron Egerton, and his discovery of Tetris in 1988. When he set out to bring the game to the world, he enters a dangerous web of lies and corruption behind the Iron Curtain. And right off the bat, Taron Egerton was absolutely fantastic in the actual movie. Obviously, people known for the other from the movies like The Kingsman, but he was absolutely brilliant in this in the role of the actual character he was playing. The actual salesman, obviously, his character's playing Hank Rogers, was he's he was Dutch, but he moved to the United States. So it was very interesting to see as to why obviously he's playing it. He's putting on an American accent. I mean, he ended up living in Tokyo, where his family, he had his family in Tokyo, and even after watching the movie, it's made me it made me look up his character, and like trying to find out the history of the actual real life character, and obviously the guy that Alexis, the guy that invented Tetris as well. And then obviously you ended up find. I wanted to find out about how much of the story is true, and obviously it is true about in terms of what basically happened, because this is how the story is based on, with the event of Tetris, and obviously Hank Rogers So that's how they collaborated the story for this movie. And as I thought, it was really fantastic. And what I like is that when you've got things that are actually based on true life events, it makes you then want to go and actually look up the actual history of it and then actually learn more about what happened. And as I thought, I had no idea that the whole Tetris and how it came to be was it was such a complicated affair. Now, mixed into the fact that obviously there was this business tycoon, which most people in the UK will know who I'm talking about, and that was Robert Maxwell. And obviously we know the stuff and the corruption in terms of what he did and the tragic events of what ended up happening to him. And I didn't even actually know that his company was actually involved in trying to get the rights to it, and in terms of what went on in him trying to then get it, and what ended up leading to his downfall as well. So that was kind of really interesting as well. And obviously seeing Nintendo's involvement in the actual project, in well, the actual story, and then the whole story about obviously how they even showed the actual prototype of the actual Game Boy, which was really great. And that side of things I didn't even kind of know. I mean, you even learn, again, I don't want to spoil too much, but you learn as to why. Obviously, most people know that the original Game Boy took four AAA batteries, or I like to call them the Walkman batteries, and then you can my DualShock is disconnected, so I should disappear in a minute. But anyway, and then you kind of find out as to the reason why that they went for a black and white screen, or green, or whatever color it is, as to a color screen. And obviously that's probably obviously due to that was obviously due to power. And obviously in this day and age now, with obviously technology being a lot better now, we kind of take these things for granted. For example, like with the PSP or the Vita or even the Switch, where all these things have inbuilt in batteries and they can last for quite a long time now. But back in those days, obviously you had to you couldn't go for a color screen, obviously, because it would end up draining the screen. And a prime example of that was obviously with the Atari Lynx which was portable, and the amount of batteries that had to take, and with the Sega Game Gear, with the amount of batteries you had to put in that, and then you didn't get many hours on that. So you kind of learn a few things along the way, and to me that this was kind of a great history lesson in learning on how franchises came to be. And I think the thing is with us gamers is that we just sit there and play their video games, and we don't see the behind the scenes of how how franchises kind of start from nothing, and then companies having to fight for the rights for a certain game, and then taking a chance on video game being the next big thing, and borrowing money and having to put yourself into debt, and not knowing on whether or not a game is going to be a success or not. And then obviously some games end up becoming a success. Obviously we look at like Mario, for example, and how big of a franchise that's been over the years, and how that's grown from strength to strength. And again, as video gamers, we only just see it as the next iteration of that video game is getting better and better, but we don't see the behind the scenes on how difficult it like it is to bring something like a game into existence. And what I would love to see is maybe some other evolve. Who knows as to whether or not this will happen. I would love to see, even if they don't necessarily make a movie of another video game franchise, I would love to see more, maybe like maybe some big budget documentaries on, say, like for example, say Zelda, or even Mario, for example, or even Uncharted, and how those games came to be, and how difficult it was for it to bring obviously the process of the actual story video of the video game from paper right up into a video game, and then obviously up into it becomes a successful franchise. So yeah, this was the first movie that I've watched on Apple TV Plus, and yeah, it's making me want to check out some more stuff on there. I was watching it through my PlayStation console, so that's how I got to see the movie. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the actual movie. I don't know if this came out in the cinema, but what I do know is that if this comes out as a physical media, I will definitely buy this as a physical media. But yeah, as I said before in the beginning of the review, I was taken aback by the fact that obviously that you're going to make a movie into Tetris, and what sold me before seeing this was when I on my YouTube subscription seen the actual trailer of this a couple of months ago. I think just before Christmas. And then once I saw the actual trailer, because obviously a trailer only gives you a piece of the pie in terms of what the movie is going to be about. And from the minute that I saw the actual trailer, I was totally sold on the actual movie, and obviously having to wait until until the end of March, stroke early April, to sit there and see the movie. And as I said before, really, really, really enjoy it, and I would say I definitely recommend it. Even if you're not a video game fan, I would still say just watch the movie because you'll absolutely love it, and especially if you do have Apple TV as just in your subscription, I'll definitely say check out the movie because you'll really enjoy it. So yeah, that's my review of Tetris. As I said before, great story, great cinematography, even the music, and it was a big history lesson. And I was also a fantastic cast. Obviously, you got Taron Egerton and even Toby Jones in it as well. Brilliantly directed. Obviously, the movie was directed by John S. Bard. So, yeah, definitely recommend it. And yeah, whatever system or streaming service on across the world, I highly recommend watching this movie. This definitely gets the big thumbs up from me.